In June 2025, the world awoke to breaking news. Israeli warplanes had struck deep inside Iran. Their targets were Iran's most sensitive nuclear sites, Natanz, Isfahan, and Fordow, catapulting a shadow conflict into the global spotlight. This was no covert raid, it was a bold, high-risk gamble years in the making. For Israel, a nuclear-armed Iran was an existential threat, one it had vowed to prevent, alone if necessary. Diplomacy and sanctions had failed to halt Iran's nuclear progress. Israel decided it could wait no longer. The decision to strike was the result of years of intelligence, debate, and military planning. Success could buy years of security. Failure could ignite a regional war. The pilots who flew that night carried the weight of their nation's survival. This story unpacks why Israel acted, the challenges it faced, and what happened at those nuclear sites. We'll examine the aftermath and the dangerous uncertainty that now hangs over the region. This is a tale of advanced technology, high-stakes geopolitics, and a conflict that has burst into the open. The consequences will echo for years. The world is left to wonder, what comes next? The stakes could not be higher. The red line has been crossed. The Middle East, and the world, will never be the same. This is the story of the day the Shadow War went public, and the world held its breath. Israel's fear of a nuclear Iran runs deep, rooted in history, rhetoric, and regional realities. Iranian leaders have called for Israel's destruction and support groups like Hezbollah and Hamas. The thought of such a regime with nuclear weapons is, for Israelis, a nightmare. It's not just about a direct attack. A nuclear Iran could shift the balance of power, emboldening Tehran and its proxies. Israel fears unchecked Iranian influence and a regional arms race, with other countries like Saudi Arabia seeking their own bombs. The Middle East, already volatile, would become even more dangerous. A single miscalculation could have global consequences. Recent nuclear advances in Iran, like uranium enriched to near weapons grade, set off alarm bells in Jerusalem. Israeli intelligence saw the window to act closing fast. Defense Minister Israel Katz warned, "If we miss this moment, we may never stop Iran from going nuclear." For Israel, the threat was immediate and existential. The time for action, in their view, had arrived. The stakes were nothing less than national survival. Israel's 2025 strike was the latest in a long tradition of preemptive action against nuclear threats. In 1981, Israel destroyed Iraq's Osirak reactor in a daring airstrike, setting a precedent. It would not allow hostile neighbors to go nuclear. The doctrine was repeated in 2007, when Israeli jets secretly demolished Syria's Al-Kibar reactor. These missions were bold, secretive, and effective, sending a clear message to the region. In the digital age, Israel turned to cyber warfare. The Stuxnet worm, discovered in 2010 and believed to be a US-Israeli creation, sabotaged Iran's Natanz facility by destroying centrifuges from within. These operations showed Israel's willingness to use any means, military or covert, to stop nuclear threats. The 2025 strikes were a dramatic escalation, not sabotage but open confrontation. Israel's message was clear. When a red line is crossed, it will act. The scale and directness of the attack marked a new chapter in the region's nuclear standoff. The stakes, and the risks, had never been higher. The world was watching. The Shadow War was now a shooting war. The consequences would be felt far beyond the Middle East. Striking Iran's nuclear sites required Israel's most advanced arsenal. The Israeli Air Force deployed stealthy F-35 One-Idir fighters, nearly invisible to radar, alongside long-range F-15I and F-16I jets, all modified for deep strikes. These aircraft, supported by aerial refueling tankers and electronic warfare planes, formed a complex strike package. The real punch came from American-made GBU-28 bunker buster bombs, designed to penetrate reinforced underground targets. Drones provided surveillance and targeted smaller sites. Every element, pilots, planes, bombs, and support, had to work in perfect harmony. The mission's success depended on precision, coordination, and years of preparation. The operation was a showcase of Israeli military innovation. Failure was not an option. The first challenge: distance. Iran is over 1,000 miles from Israel, with hostile or neutral airspace in between. Israeli jets had to fly undetected, possibly relying on secret overflight agreements or advanced stealth tactics. Next came Iran's formidable air defenses, Russian S-300 missiles and domestic systems, layered around nuclear sites. Pilots faced a gauntlet of radar and missiles. A single mistake could be fatal. The targets themselves were buried deep underground, shielded by concrete and earth. Destroying them required pinpoint accuracy and powerful bunker busters. Every phase, route, timing, weapons had to be flawless. The risk of losing planes and pilots was real. Years of planning went into overcoming these obstacles. The June 2025 strikes proved Israel could reach even the most protected sites. It was a feat of military and technological prowess. But the risks were enormous. The centerpiece was Natanz, Iran's main enrichment hub. Israel launched a coordinated multi-pronged attack, aiming not just to damage but to cripple the facility. Satellite images showed widespread destruction and smoke. The above-ground pilot fuel enrichment plant, crucial for testing new centrifuges, was obliterated. The real target, the underground cascade halls. Instead of trying to blast through meters of concrete, Israel cut the power, destroying main and backup generators. The result, thousands of centrifuges crashed, causing catastrophic damage. 9 top Iranian nuclear experts were killed, a blow to Iran's technical expertise. No major radiological leak was reported, but the loss of hardware and human capital was severe. The attack was a masterclass in targeting both infrastructure and know-how. Natanz was left crippled, its future uncertain. The message nowhere was safe. The strike on Natanz was devastating, but results elsewhere were mixed. Isfahan, Iran's largest nuclear research center, was hit, but the extent of damage remains unclear. Iran downplayed the attack, claiming minimal impact. Israel insisted it struck key facilities. The truth is murky. Both sides waged a war of narratives. At Fordow, the most fortified site, the attack had little effect. The IAEA reported no significant disruption. Iran claimed to have shot down an Israeli drone. Fordow's survival means Iran retains a path to a bomb. Analyst James Acton warned, if Fordow remains operational, Israel's attacks may barely slow Iran's path to the bomb. The strikes were a blow, but not a knockout. Iran's nuclear ambitions survived, damaged but not destroyed. The threat lingers. The strikes plunged the Middle East into crisis. Years of shadow conflict erupted into open confrontation. The world waited for Iran's response. Retaliation seemed inevitable, but its form was uncertain. Iran faced a dilemma: strike back hard and risk all-out war, or respond cautiously and risk appearing weak. Proxy attacks, missile strikes, or covert operations were all possible. The region teetered on the edge. Diplomacy collapsed. Hopes for a nuclear deal evaporated. Israel's actions signaled a turn away from negotiation toward military solutions. Even allies questioned the wisdom of the strike. The operation bought time, but not peace. Hardliners in Iran were emboldened. The cycle of attack and retaliation threatened to become permanent. The June 2025 strikes marked a turning point in the Israel-Iran conflict. Israel's operation was a display of military might, but it did not end Iran's nuclear ambitions. Natanz was crippled, but Fordow survived. The threat persists. The risk of wider war is now greater than ever. The world faces hard questions. Did the strike make the region safer or more dangerous? Can diplomacy recover, or is escalation inevitable? The choices ahead will shape the future of the Middle East and global security. The gamble's outcome remains uncertain. The stakes are existential. The story is far from over.